everyone. I am Rachel Clark. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I am here with Dr. Jason Whitaker. And tonight we are going to share with you the importance of having a vision. And I will tell you that for so many years, I was pretty much just going through life and didn't really have a vision. It was one of those things where just, go to school, get a job, pay the bills, and it really wasn't until I met Dr. Jason and his wife, Dr. Bobby, that I really learned the importance of having a vision and that there is really more to life with that.
What she's really saying, Dr. Bobby changed her life. I kind of.
But I had to throw him in since he is sitting here.
I am sitting here, so I do get. That's the only way I get a credit around these women. But anyway, it is important, to have vision, and you're absolutely right. We talked about last week, how it's important to take the next steps, to start gaining the knowledge and start gaining some wisdom. To start setting up your life, and through that, we talked about three things. Partnering with God, learning about some grace, and then getting your assignment. And I guess you could say that the assignment part could be the vision, that you have in your life, and that can mean a lot of different things. A lot of people, that your vision might be right now to just be healthy, get rid of that disease. Your vision might be to not have a negative attitude. Your vision might be to have better relationships. It might be that you want to be a millionaire. You want to start your own business. You want these things out of life, but what we're going to talk about tonight is like vision is the bridge of where you're at right now to what you could be. And then also there's some important questions that you could ask yourself. What is your passion? What are your dreams? I'm going to use dreams tonight too, because I think a lot of people have stopped dreaming. And so we're going to use dreams and maybe a couple of different definitions and just kind of jog your mind a little bit, maybe stir you up a little bit to start thinking about what we're talking about, thinking about what you're thinking about. We're going to talk about that some tonight as well, so that you could take it, maybe one or two things that we're saying, write it down, and then maybe start researching it and go reading other things and start designing your life. So I'm excited for tonight.
I will say that one thing that when I started taking those small steps, because it's not something that you just change overnight, but it's important to take that first step, which is what causes a lot of people not to even step forward, because it's pretty scary sometimes. It's change. And taking that step forward, it seemed like when I did that and I started kind of opening myself up and wanting to learn more things started actually coming to me to help me learn and broaden my vision.
Right. So, when you start doing that, you do open up yourself to a lot of there's a lot of critique or a lot of for yourself, but also opens yourself up to getting other what I call revelation or words of knowledge or words of wisdom along the way through maybe something that you read or just maybe something that just pops into your mind. But before we get in a little bit more of that, I want to thank the people that did reach out. Because we did have people that reached out, people that called, a couple people that called, one that we even got to sit down with, other text messages, some very encouraging messages. So, we know we're just the best orators, right here, and you'd be surprised of how we're putting this all together, But when you need something, in your life, it doesn't really, you can feel the heart, of why we're doing this. So we really thank you for everybody that's reached out to us, encouraged us, but also that we got to just be there for some people Because as she was saying, you know, one aspect of it is that when you're in vision is like, and you're going for it, you start having clarity. You know, when you get more knowledge, you get more wisdom, you start having more clarity of where you're wanting to go. And that's why it is so important to know what you're trying to accomplish. You know, is back from the future mentality is what I call it. It's like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish in my life. And then from that point, you go back to your reality, you know, and you start manifesting. I wrote this down, what actually a dream is. A dream is a seed that turns into your vision, or vision is your inside dream now manifesting in real time. But you got to know what your dream is. You got to know what your vision is. You got to know what you're trying to accomplish so that you could go back to your reality. Because I don't know if I've already said this, but some people are more comfortable and don't get offended with this word misery, but some people are more comfortable in their misery of their now, of their reality. They're more comfortable with the misery of their now and their reality than the discomfort or of pursuing their dream. And so when you're making that bridge, a lot of people, and I talk to people all the time, that their problem or whatever, their disease or whatever, it starts to identify them. Mm-hmm. You know, their negative attitude starts identifying them, you know, and they get into this rut, you know, and so everything is filtered through this one thing that, you know, maybe a divorce is starting to identify them. Maybe their addiction is starting to identify them. Maybe they've never had a greater relationship with anybody. It's starting to identify. And so it starts forming up this rut. And at one point in time, and we were talking about this earlier, that we're going to have to take personal responsibility for our own life. Mm-hmm. And so we're at the sum decision. You know, our life is at the sum decisions that we've made up to now. And at one point in time, we got this to. Whoa, was that a bright light? You just saw a thought flash into my head. It was.
Oh boy.
It was a word of wisdom. Now I understand now.
Watch out.
But at some point, maybe that was just too much. Maybe it was just like God, you know, flashing, freaking me out. It might be my last time on our channel. But you got to take that time, you know, and say, you know, I'm going to own this right now, and so I'm going to bury this. I'm going to start this from right now, and so I can start moving forward, you know, in my life. And I'll leave it this, and I know you've got something to say because she's hitting me right now. But think about this. You know, sight is. I wrote this down. Sight is a function of the eyes, but vision is the function of the heart. You know, there's a lot of eyes that see, but there's few that have actually heart vision. So that's what we're trying to impart to you guys. We're inspiring you guys and trying to get you guys to see the vision that you could have for your life. And that doesn't have to be this grandiose thing that you're doing. It could be just the next goal, the next step that you need to be doing, you know, to make your life, you know, get your preferred life.
And I think, you know, what Dr. Jason was saying too, it's sometimes we get caught up in our past and we get so hung up on that we can't even see what possibilities are out there for us. And so it's important that, you know, the past is in the past. It's in the past for a reason. Leave it there. You can't go back and change it. So the best thing that you can do now is to move forward. And I know that probably some of you, because I was like this, I'm like, I didn't really have a vision. I'm like, what do I want to do? I didn't know exactly. So I guess it's like one of those things that I started to find my passion, which started to broaden my vision. And it's one of those things that I really had to push myself outside my comfort zone, because my vision was always kind of small and I had to really think big and stretch it.
Right, and she hit the nail on the head, that she had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But here's the reason why. This is why we're doing this, is that, it says in the word that people that lack knowledge or lack vision, they perish. And what that actually means is that those people cast off restraint. They have absolutely no self-control. They have no self-discipline, for what they're trying to accomplish in their life. And so when that happens, they do not set the necessary boundaries in their life to achieve their vision, because that takes commitment. And people don't like commitment. They don't like it. So because as soon as you get a vision and there's like, now you got to be committed to this. I'll be honest with you. God's been talking to me about doing videos for a few years now, and I'm like, I don't, I'm busy or whatever, but I know I needed to do this, but I made excuses. I made that commitment. Well, if I do that, then I'm going to have to do this. I've already done this before, then I'm going to have to do this, and I'm going to have to commit. And then it was like, wait a minute. What am I asking you to commit to? Well, I'm asking you to commit to it's your own life. And the expanded vision. So that's the reality of it. Sometimes you got to commit to your own life, and at a level, and just put it all down. Now, here's the deal. But you got to set personal boundaries. That's what they say, that when you set personal boundaries, you don't tell an alcoholic that was an alcoholic to go back. They probably shouldn't need to go to the bar. If somebody's having, pre-diabetic and they're gaining a pound a week at Dunkin' Donuts, you probably need to reset your GPS, to not go to Dunkin' Donuts, because you're going to end up with diabetes. Does it have to get to a point where that your right toe is in intense pain because you have neuropathy, and it's degenerating inside your foot? So that's my point, is like, you got to set boundaries for your life. If you have an addiction, you probably need to, what vision will do is like, I don't want that addiction anymore. So what that means is that vision will start attracting you to people that are on the same path that you are, but it also will show you who you don't need to be associating with anymore. But here's some couple of questions that that you might be thinking about. When you're going through this, you might want to write these down. How can I know what my vision is? So when you're done with this, how can I know what my vision is? What are going to be your strategies for overcoming the obstacles? Because when the obstacles come, you're going to have to be able to fight that obstacle, so that fight that that temptation or whatever it might be, so that you can stay on there. Especially if you're negative, you have a negative mental attitude. What are you going to say to yourself right there? Somebody sets you off, and it's going to happen. Probably by the time you get in your car and about 30 minutes or 30 feet down the road, and somebody cuts you off, somebody's going to set you off. And how are you going to handle that? Are you going to allow that to ruin your day? Or you're going to find something that's going to draw you back in. So a lot of people are looking for things on the outskirts of things, but a lot of times what you'll find that your actual vision and your purpose it lies within inside of you, and that's what scares most people, because they're living in prisons of self-limitations within inside of them. So when they do get a vision, they have to change. Mm-hmm. They have to start changing, and it's difficult sometimes. It's very difficult sometimes. And so one thing that starts happening to you, and I know that you might be talking about, what you did, some strategies to how you kept toward you and kept pushing to your vision. But before you do that, one thing that I noticed was that I had to start thinking about what I was thinking about. There's different thoughts that come to your brain. Some of them are your thoughts. Some of them might be, a thought that comes from God. Maybe it's bad thoughts. And we all know, maybe the enemy of your soul, whatever. Somebody's putting bad thoughts in your mind. So you've got to start thinking about what you're thinking about, because if you think about on anything too long, guess what the next thing you're going to do? You're going to start speaking it. So that's where most of the, if you want to achieve your vision, that's where most of it is right here between these two ears. Right here is that you start thinking about what you're thinking about, and you start rightly dividing it. And the only way that I know how to do that and how to do it properly and how to focus, because that's what most people don't do because they cast out, they don't have any self-control or self-discipline. They have to focus, is that you got to start writing it down. Because if you start writing down the things that you're trying to accomplish, because 97% of the people, they don't write out any goals. And so if you don't write something down, it's basically a wish. It's really never going to happen. So you got to write it down. But if you start writing down all the things that you want to accomplish, or even your day, as a journal. I remember when I was first told to journal something, I was like, well, isn't that something that girls do? I know.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, you want me to journal?
You're going to go there?
Right. Well, I'm
sitting right here.
Right. You gave Bobby all the credit earlier, so whatever. But I mean, I was like, so, but when you do, and you'll get hold on, just pipe down. But what you'll do is that when you start writing everything down, you start saying, well, that's my thought. That's good. Maybe that's inspired. Maybe that's my next step. Well, that was negative. That's definitely something and you start crossing out this stuff. You need to take what's inside your brain and put it on paper. It makes it a reality. Mm-hmm. And so that's another strategy that you need to think about what you're thinking about, write it down, and then you can start focusing. So it's like if a thought that comes that I say, you know what, that's my vision. My vision is to be a millionaire. That's my vision, or I want to start a business or whatever it might be that something comes your way and you have a decision at that moment. It's like, you need to filter it through. Will this help me become more successful in my business? Will this get me healthy? If I do this, what is the reality of this situation? Because every decision has a circumstance. It's just the way it is. Every decision has a circumstance. So if you start filtering what you're thinking, and one thing our pastor says, Pastor Jason and Pastor Melissa, they said, if you start thinking something, or you start about ready to do something that maybe it doesn't line up with your vision or line up with what you're doing, say it out loud. Because then for me, it'd be like, I just said it out loud and I was like, well, that didn't sound that bad in my mind, but that really sounded stupid when I said it out loud. That's going to sabotage what I'm trying to accomplish. And that's what that's one of the strategies that we have to help you move to the next step.
And I think, and I love what Philip said, don't be afraid of success. And I think that some people, they get that fear. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so what happens if things start to move forward and things start to happen? Okay, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of us, we just have things that hold us back. And I found this question earlier. What would you achieve if you were 10 times bolder? I mean, think about it. Because so many, our fears hold us back. But what if you just completely took that out of the equation? Mm-hmm. And what would you achieve? And like Dr. Jason said, write these things down. And when you're writing out your goals, I do my goals, I sit down at the end of every year and plan them out for the next year. Assign dates to them. And it could be, I know some of my goals for this year, they don't have to be huge. It's, that I'm going to read so many pages of a self-development book on a daily basis. Exercise so many days a week. Yeah, that one's been hit and miss, but I have it written down and I see it, so it reminds me. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about journaling, something that has really helped me, I have a gratitude journal. So in this gratitude journal, to get to empty page here, on one side every day, just jot down some things that you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be big things. It could be that you didn't lose your temper when somebody cut you off in traffic. It could be that you got a good, parking space, because so many times we all will go home, we're tired, we're like, it's just been a bad day. Well, that's when it's really, really important to sit down and start jotting some things down, because I can pretty much guarantee once you start writing down a few things, more things will start to come to you.
It'll start to flow.
Yeah, and what I love about this journal that I have is on the opposite page, you're thankful for, things that say you have as a part of your vision that you want to achieve, but you write it as you've already achieved
Right.
it, so that it's not out there in the future. You're thankful for it now.
Right.
And I know that may seem a little odd to begin with, but you actually start getting that feeling. Like if there is a specific car that you want, be specific. You know, I want this 2018 Mercedes-Benz, whatever, and that I am so grateful that I have this car. And you start getting that feeling of that excitement, like you really do have it. And those vibrations, that's being put out in the universe. I mean, it all works together.
And basically what she's saying is that when you have a habit, especially a bad habit of doing, saying, or whatever, that you only could replace a habit with another habit. And so, and you kind of, when you have that bad habit, it kind of burns a rut in your brain. You know, there's that pathway in your brain. So you're so used to that. You're so used to that habit. So you never get rid of that bad habit. You could only replace it with a better habit. So that's where. So if you have this in your life, so this is your reality of your life right now. This is your dream. So you write your statement, you know, towards your dream. And I know that what we practice not only right now, but we also have what we call a vision board. And we actually find, you know, we write out what we want. If our pastors talk about pie in the sky thinking. You know, what is your preferred life? I mean, if you didn't have any fear and you could just live your life the way that you wanted, you know, even had all the money in the world, how would you design your life? You know, what would that look like? You know, and a lot of people, they were like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. But then what would that look like? And you know what? It's harder than you think. It's harder than you think that, you know, so you might want to drive, you start out, I'll drive this, I'll live this, but no, what about some of the intangible things that you would like to have in your life? And so if you're really wanting to move forward or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be this big, grandiose, big picture of your life, but whatever it is, put something in front of you that you see every single day. Because sight is powerful, because it gets in, because eventually that vision is going to get in your heart. It's going to go from your head to your heart. It's going to go from your head to your heart. So you see it, that's physical. I mean, I said earlier, most people have eyes that have sight, but they don't actually have vision because they don't have the heart vision. But if you start paying attention, if you're really seeking something and you're starting to see it, you're starting to think about it, you're starting to speak about it, you know, and the right thing, you know, things will start to come to pass. So that's why we do have a vision board. That's why we put what we want at the end game goal for that till we reach that, and then we can redefine the vision. So that's why this gratitude is the key, guys. I mean, you could read every book you're out there. Gratitude is the key to anything to accomplish your vision. You got to stay grateful. You got to start looking at life and like, okay, thank God I have this now. Thank God for the progress that I have. Because I'll share this with you. Because once you step out, it's almost like sometimes you can become a target. You know, when some people, sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. I'm just, for example, these last 3 weeks, this is 4 weeks, you know, I look back through there and I begrudgingly listen to myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, that was horrible. You know, that was bad. I mean, thank God people were like listening to my heart and not actually what I'm saying. You know, I mean, I haven't done this in a long time. I'm a little bit rusty. I've done this before. You know, I used to speak every single week and spoke in conferences, and I got really used to that, and you know, it had some impact then. But this is now. I can't live in the past, and it's just really. Well, I wish I wouldn't have said that. You know, well, enunciate your words, Jason. Speak clearer. Speak slower. You know, I mean, all the different things that were just like, oh my gosh, you know, I could totally just self-critique myself to death. And you could be careful that sometimes you will you be so critical of yourself that you'll abort the vision. That you're like, okay, make the next step even harder. So be careful about being so critical. You got to learn to laugh at yourself. You know, you should have seen the faces that she was making before she got on here. I mean, if you saw that face, I mean, you'll be fine. You'll be like, oh my gosh, you know. But my point of it is that we're doing this. We're expanding our vision. We're not just talk. There's a lot of people that can regurgitate information and speak better than whatever maybe we can speak, but are they engaged in expanding their vision? That's what we're here for. We're actually doing this. We actually care. We actually want to help people take whatever next step it will be, and we're doing it. We're doing the vision. We're expanding the vision, and as we go, it is becoming clearer, isn't it? I mean, we have big plans, you know, for this. I mean, there's going to be multiple aspects. You know, I mean, you're not going to have to stare at my face every single week, maybe, you know. But I mean, there's going to be other people that are going to be coming. Yeah, she's like, thank God, you know, get some more women on here, you know. But we do have a plan, and we do have really good knowledge, and we got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe that is going to be useful. Maybe not everything is going to be useful for you at this time, but it can be useful. You know, maybe one thing can be useful, so just use that. So, but don't be so critical on yourself, you know, because sometimes we feel like we're getting trapped in our life. We're like trapped inside, you know, and just want to be set free, you know, and that just takes one thought at a time, one positive word at a time, one page at a time that you're learning. It just takes, and you got to have, you know, that's good, Bobby. You got to have the heart to help people, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it really is, and so that's why, I mean, we are so passionate about all this, about, you know, the health, about expanding your mindset, your vision, and, you know, helping you be more, because I mean, there's more to life, and you can actually enjoy life. And I mean, it's taken a long time for me to understand that.
How old are you now?
45. Okay. Thank you very much.
I was saying it was a long time. I was just wondering how long that was.
Old enough. And so it's, you know, and it's never too late to start. And so, you know, just remember, just baby steps, little steps forward. I mean, start on a vision board, start a gratitude journal. And it could just be pieces of paper. It doesn't matter. Just start somewhere. And, you know, really start paying attention to your words. You know, when you're speaking, is it negative? Is it positive? Really, really start paying attention to that, because you might actually surprise yourself. Because sometimes you don't think that you are being negative, but once you start paying attention, yeah, there's some times that things are coming out, and I still, on a daily basis, have to watch myself and listen to what I'm saying. And I'm very blessed, though, to have people around me that if I do kind of fall off track a little bit, they have no problem with telling me that and to help me get back on track.
I'm not even around you all now, so I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, no. So is there anything else? I know we've kind of thrown a lot out there tonight, because, and we probably didn't even touch on all your notes that you have written down. But it's all about the baby steps. Okay, you know, start asking yourself some questions and start taking those steps. So, is there anything else?
What is your vision? Yeah. Write it down, and hopefully, as we go, you know, we'll be able to just add some value as we go to help you take that next step. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, inbox us. You know, if you have a number, send us a text. You know, or just whatever. You know. Or we could show you some of the resources that we've used, you know, some of the things that helped us get and kick started, and you know, reach out. So.
And that's what this is all about. I mean, the things that we are sharing with you are things that we have done and are doing, and that have helped us so much. So we know that all this works, and that's why we want to share it with you all, and to help you. And so please as you're watching this, hit the share button, share it with others, because the more people that we can help, the happier that we're going to be. So
right, and if you have problems jumpstarting your brain, XM Plus. This is her secret. You know, right now, it'll help you energize your brain so you can start thinking.
Good
clearly.
nutrition, and it's replaced my coffee, and I don't go a day without it. So it's completely changed my life. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we will be back here next Thursday about the same time, 7:15. But reach out to us in the meantime. As Dr. Jason said, you know, send us a message. If you have our numbers, text us, pick up the phone, call us. People still do that every now and again. So we're here to help you. So, you know, have a blessed evening, and we will see you next week.
All right. Take care, guys.